Hello YouTubers, I just want to make a little video here. It's a continuation on the previous videos on this 100 series Land Cruiser 2006 with a 4.7. But so I finished everything else. It's been running great. The truck turned out really well, really good project. I'm really pleased, happy with it. Now, the only thing is that I'm having to go back in here, and this is something that I maybe should have addressed early on, but I didn't want to really mess with it. And it turns out there's a small exhaust leak on the header, and there's no videos or anything out there on how to remove this thing. It's a pain in the ass, actually. This is the header. And then there's a heat shield that goes over it and kind of protects all these other hoses and wires and stuff from the heat. And that heat shield was like really corroded, just like everything else. I'll show it to you. It's right over here. And I was able to remove it. Here it is. And just to take this off was a pain in the ass. It's held on by four bolts. Two there and two there, and then you can see how it's all perforated from the rust. It really ate up this thing, and I'm surprised it was still holding on just the way it was. But anyways, it sits on the header like this, and these bolts were pretty rusty. I was able to take 3 of them off. One of them snapped off, but it's no big deal because the bolt does not go on the head or on the block. It actually goes on this gasket bracket. There it is right there where it snapped. But this part right here is the gasket clamp thing that holds the header onto the block. So right now, I did a lot of soaking. I soaked everything with Blaster penetrating fluid, and I was able to remove the heat shield after I took off the 4 bolts. It wouldn't come out down this way, and I had to take it out towards the front of the vehicle. And mind you, this is the driver's side, of course. I don't know if I mentioned that, but anyways, in order for it to come out this way, it was kind of blocking, or it was hitting on the oil filter. So I actually had to come down here and put a little drip pan, and I put this funnel thing here, and I was able to go in here and just remove the oil filter, which is in here. And then, once I removed that filter, that opened up this alleyway here for that heat shield to come out. Boom, and it came out real easy. But along with that, and like I said, this project's pretty, that's why I didn't tackle it before. But so in order to get enough clearance in there, I actually had to undo the motor mount on this side, the driver's side. And let me try to get under here and give you a better angle. So this motor mount, I had to undo it from the bottom end right there where that little wooden block is located. This bolt, the back bolt towards the rear of the vehicle, is a bolt and a nut. I believe they're 14 millimeter, and those came off pretty easily. And then the one in the front is also 14, but it comes in from the top on that side. I don't know if you can see it, but anyways, right there, the nut on the bottom is welded, so we're not gonna be able to spin that one. You just got to spin the head on the bolt from the top. And I was able to do it like across this way where I could reach my hand in above the motor mount and get some leverage and break it loose. And then once it came loose, I just spun it out, and then I put this block and this jack right here to kind of lift up the engine. So I lifted it up enough to where I got like an inch and a half, maybe, enough to put that little wooden block in there as a safety spacer. Once I did that, that heat shield came out really easy. And I'm just gonna leave it right there, suspend it like that for now until I can undo the rest of these header bolts. There's one right there in the middle. I already undid these 3 on this flange that goes to the tailpipe. I still need to take off the oxygen sensor there. But just like there's 4 bolts on the bottom side of this header, there's also 4 bolts on the top. And I get back up. Oh boy. So as you can see, I already took off the very front one right there. It was pretty rusty, but once it broke loose, it came out no problem. I'm working on that one, and then the back one, which is back in there. So I really soaked them really good with that blaster stuff. That seems to help. And then if I can get these top 4, then I'll start working on the bottom 4, which are a little harder. But once you break those header bolts off, the whole header should come off. It's relatively small. And then I'm gonna try to separate this flange more. It's already separated there, but to where I can hang the bottom end and get it off the header, and then I can work the header loose off the studs over here. I'm just praying to God that I don't break any studs. I'm letting them soak really good. And then the best approach to these, you might be tempted to want to reach in here from the side with an extension and a universal joint kind of fitting, but you might end up stripping those things and you don't really get enough leverage, torque to take them off. So the best approach is from the top. You come in from the top end, and then you can really get a good handle on them. And yeah, and you just reach in through here, and then that's how I took off the first one. And you just kind of have to work the wrench in here and then just get enough leverage, but you get a better angle when you come in from the top. And at least that's some of the pointers that I've seen on YouTube. There's only like one good video. I forget the guy's name. He's really good at working on 100 series. And he doesn't really show us step by step, but he does talk about it and just gives a bunch of pointers. Right now I'm gonna follow one of his tips, and I'm gonna go and find a spline socket for these header nuts, which look like this. And these are really easy to strip. They're relatively soft metal, or I mean, not soft metal, but they're just really easy to strip with your typical what do you call it, six point socket. Even though it seems to fit in there pretty well, they have tendency, you don't seat them all the way down properly, and if you just have an angle on them where they're like kind of cockeyed, you're gonna strip them real easily. So there's actually a spline socket. You see, and you can see there's some play in here, which shouldn't be happening. That's a 14 millimeter. So there's a special socket for these nuts. I'm gonna go see if I can find it at Home Depot or Harbor Freight or somewhere. I think they're called spline sockets, to be able to take these off without stripping them. Because that's the last thing I want to do, is strip those nuts. And I would just want to be able to take them off effortlessly. So that's where I am. And the whole reason is because, again, there's an exhaust leak, like back in here somewhere on the header. I think coming from this cylinder. Now, I don't know if it's the actual header that was busted. It's got a crack in it. I haven't been able to see in there yet. Even with the heat shield removed, I can't really get a good visual. So I'm just gonna remove it, replace this gasket, replace all this stuff that's all corroded away. This is all like part of the heat shield behind the gasket. Clean it up really good, and then put it all back together with some new nuts. And I'm not having issues with oxygen sensor per se. I don't have the engine light on or anything, but I might just replace that oxygen sensor with a new one. I'm not sure yet, but anyways, I'm still working on removing this thing. If the header is cracked, there's a way to weld it, or you can just buy a new one. They're like, I don't know, anywhere from 150 to 250. I've seen them as high as $500 for an OEM Toyota header. So it depends what the fault is here. I have a feeling it's just the gasket itself is rusted and enough to create a little vacuum or a little exhaust leak where you can hear it. It just kind of sputters. It's kind of annoying. It's not. It doesn't sound like a Toyota. It sounds more like a Ford or a Chevy or something, and I don't like that. I want the Toyota sound with a clean, quiet sound, And the passenger side seems to be okay. I'm gonna do this side first, and then the other side is actually easier, and there's no leak over there, so I might just leave the other side alone and just fix this side for now. But we'll see. See what happens. I'm still trying to remove this one first. Now, as I take it off and all that, I'll post another little clip and keep you guys posted. All right, have a good one, folks. Like and subscribe, please, if you like some of these videos. I know they're long-winded. I talk a lot, but I'm trying to explain it the best I can. And I'm not a certified mechanic, by the way. I'm just a do-it-yourself, beer drinking home mechanic. That's all. And these are my tools. Little Craftsman set. That's it. Nothing fancy, just do-it-yourselfer. All right, love you guys. Take care. All right, good morning, YouTubers. Just want to give you another little update here on this header. Man, what a can of worms. It's been a really frustrating job. Started with a heat shield, which I already took off. I think I mentioned it in the last video where I had to actually undo the motor mount, lift the engine up about a couple inches, inch and a half. I was able to put that block of wood in there. And then had to remove the oil filter, and then the heat shield came out towards the front of the vehicle, and I just slid it out, no problem. So that was that. And then now I've been tackling all these studs and nuts that hold the header together. So far, I've taken off these top 4, and there's 4 more on the bottom. I've taken 3 of them off on the bottom of the pipe there. You can't really see them, but they're down there somewhere. And yeah, they've been a real struggle to get off, along with the rust situation. But it's not so much that, it's just the angle of trying to get a good angle, good torque to get the socket to sit right, and then be able to get enough leverage to turn it. Once they're loose, they're broken loose, then they come out relatively easy. But it's that awkward angling of the ratchet and the socket itself. If you notice, this one right here is kind of banged up. So that one actually stripped, the little nut stripped on me, as well as this one here. So believe it or not, I mean, I have not used the torch or any heat. I haven't applied any heat to it yet. Maybe I should have. But you know, the first couple of them came out fairly normal, and then when I got to these, I ended up stripping them. So here's the nut. Essentially, I don't know if you can get a good focus on it, but it's stripped. And then I ended up like, wow, so how the hell do I take this thing off now? So I ended up having to cut the nut. You notice it's all like cut away. And the way I did this, so that's one of them. And then the other one was this one. I also had to do the same thing, just kind of cut the damn thing and pry it open, and then it came off. But man, this thing was like kicking me in the butt. So essentially what I did was I took a long chisel like this, and I sharpened the edge on the grinder. Got a good sharp edge on it. And then I was able to find a position on the nut where I was able to stick the chisel in there, and then just kind of hammer away until it split open. If you notice, these nuts have these little grooves right here, which is, let me show you one that doesn't, that I didn't cut. Yeah, here's one right here. So these nuts, they have these little, I don't know what they're for, these little expansion grooves, I guess. So that really helped for me to be able to get a good seat on the chisel. I kind of stuck it in one of those grooves and then just hammered away, and then for whatever reason, the metal on these nuts is not like your typical hard steel. This is like a soft, it's not aluminum, but it's a softer steel, where the chisel just pretty much went right through it. I mean, it took a few poundings, but essentially it split it. So that's kind of the issue I ran into. And then luckily the threads were okay. They didn't get damaged. But I think once I get this whole thing removed, I'm gonna try to take those studs out and put some new studs in there with some new nuts, of course. And right now I just have one more nut down below here where I can't even see it, but it's down in there. And those you have to kind of come in from the top, the engine compartment or the engine bay, with a wrench, with your socket wrench, kind of like this setup. And then you know, you can get down in there from the top. Just make sure your socket's seated right so it doesn't strip the nut, because if it does, then it's a royal screwy problem. This last one that I have left, I've kind of waited on that. It's the hardest bolt on the manifold to remove. It's kind of behind this shock absorber strut mount thing right here. It's like down in there, and it's hard to get to. It's the hardest one. But along with that, man, this particular model, Land Cruiser 4.7, whatever, it also has this pipe here, which I'm also having a hard time finding this particular part. And I haven't bought it yet because I want to take this off first. It might actually be good, and that exhaust leak was probably coming from the gasket rather than the pipe itself. I don't think it's cracked or anything, or at least I hope it's not. But to replace this thing, they have some that are just your basic 4-cylinder piping that comes out from each of the cylinders. But the Land Cruiser, and I think some other, the Lexus and some of these other models, I think also have this little pipe that's part of the header assembly. This, let me see if I can point to it. I don't know, you can see it right here. It's this pipe right here. And it goes all the way to the end over here. and it just runs. It's part of the header. It's all welded as part of the header, and then it goes all the way towards the back over here, where there it is, where it kind of ends right there, and then it's got these two nuts that kind of hold this pipe assembly here to this other pipe that goes up towards the manifold, the upper intake. So there's this nut, and then there's this nut right here. I don't know if you can see it, but these two are like a royal pain in the ass to get out, to remove. They got to be disconnected from here. This flange needs to separate from the header. But these two little, they're 10 millimeters, and I already stripped one of them. So now I'm at the point where I don't know how in the hell I'm gonna take those off. I'm just gonna end up cutting them, grinding them away, or I don't know, try to chisel them off or whatever. But once I remove that other nut down here on the bottom of the header, the whole header part will be loose, and it'll just be attached to that little pipe. Now I don't want to take that nut off over there and then have this whole thing be loose until I take these two off first. I don't want to damage that pipe that goes up towards the intake. But anyway, so yeah, that's that's the problem I'm having. And of course, this side, the driver's side, is the hardest because of all this crap, along with the steering column shaft. It's kind of in the way. I thought I was just maybe taking this off, but then I don't want to disturb the steering, the alignment, any of that stuff. So according to what I saw in the videos, the easiest thing is to undo the two bolts on the motor mount and just kind of lift up the engine, and that gives you the clearance that you need to take this off without messing with the steering. So yeah, hopefully once I grind those two nuts off back here, free up that little pipe, I'll take off this last nut down here, and this whole assembly should come off. And then we'll inspect it. I'm gonna have to get the new gaskets, new seals, new studs, new nuts, and then put everything back together. But all right, that's where I am, and I thought I'd let you know, man. No wonder people don't want to work on this particular model or this type of vehicle. Even the Tundra, the Sequoia, any exhaust manifold is a pain in the ass. Whether it's a Chevy, a Ford, a Dodge, they're all real cumbersome. Mainly because the bolts are seized. Usually they rust, they snap off, they break, they strip, and it's a royal pain in the ass. And a job that's supposed to only take like maybe 6 to 8 hours winds up taking like 40 hours or something. I've already been working on this for a couple days, probably a total of about 8 hours so far. And this is barely where I'm at. I still haven't removed the damn thing. But anyways, so here we go. We'll keep you posted. All right, we'll see you later. Hello, YouTubers. Just wanted to give you an update on my progress here on this exhaust manifold. The last video, I guess, or the last clip, I was having a hard time with those nuts. I was finally able to take them all off. The header came off relatively easy once all the bolts were off. I did end up having to chisel and cut off those two little bolts that were giving me trouble back there. There's no way to spin them off. They had to get cut off. And what really helped was one of those reciprocating tools. I don't have it here right now. I already put it away, but it's one of those, I think they're called reciprocating tools. They just kind of move back and forth, like vibrate, bzzz, you know, and you put a blade. They got different blades that you can put on there. And I was able to get a metal blade for it, and it fit right in there where I just sawed right through those two bolts. and then I was able to get that last nut off that was holding the whole manifold together. And once that came off, the whole assembly came off. Let me show you kind of what it looks like here. So I've already done quite a bit of progress on it. This is what came off finally. These two little bolts were the ones that were giving me a headache. Just cut right through them. And then, as it turns out, the gasket was pretty shot. As you can see, it's all rusted really bad. But apparently it was not leaking from the gasket. This is a heat shield. It's all rusted out. And it turns out that this manifold was, let me turn it around. Yeah, if you can tell, there's a flange on each one of these. Little flange back here. This little ring where it tapers off. And if you can tell here, this one, the flange is completely broken off. And I don't know what I did with it. It's around here. And there's probably a way to put this ring back on and then weld it and put this whole thing back together, but I didn't want to mess with it. I didn't want to go that route. First of all, because, well, it would involve some precision welding. I also broke off this nut, or this bolt that holds the shield. I would have to extract that and rethread it. And then, well, of course, these two would have to come out, these two little studs, and then rethread and put new studs. And then these that go on this flange to the downpipe towards the oxygen sensors and stuff, they're pretty stripped. And I just didn't want to mess with any of this stuff. This thing has seen better days. So I just thought I'd buy all these new parts, which I did. I ordered everything from the dealership, OEM, Toyota, Lexus. I'm not gonna list all the parts. I mean, you can go to their website and order what you need. But yeah, I got all new nuts, all new studs, the new shield, a new gasket, and then this is the new manifold. I already put these studs in there, brand new. It's nice, OEM. And then this little pipe thing that I was telling you guys, it comes with the two studs already mounted on there, so that's cool. OEM is like $300, man, kind of pricey, but I could not find anything else comparable. Yeah, so had to bite it and just buy the OEM stuff. Anyways, yeah, a lot of times you buy the aftermarket stuff and it doesn't fit right. Anyways, so you're better off just spending the money and ordering the actual Toyota part. You'll be glad you did. And then, so once I took the old manifold off, I keep calling it a manifold. I don't know if that's the right term or whatever it's called, but let me show you here. This is a new gasket. So once I took everything off, then I went after the studs. I had to remove all these studs. And at first I thought, man, it's gonna be a pain in the butt. Which it was, but not too bad. They have the tip of them has like a hex tip on it. So I was able to find the socket that goes there, and the studs are only torqued to about 13 foot-pounds. And so luckily they didn't require a whole lot of effort to spin out. I was able to just by hand just turn them loose, and then they all came out. There was one that stripped at the tip, so I had to put some vice grips on it, and then it spun out real easy. And luckily the hole was okay. The threads inside the block here were okay. They're not rusted out or anything. This is aluminum, so we're good. So I was able to take all the studs out. And then once I did that, I went to town kind of cleaning the surface with a brush and a little drill bit that has a brush on it. Cleaned all the gunk off of it, polished it up pretty good. And then those are the new studs that are on there. I already put those on. And again, just hand tighten them and then just give it a little snugging up. I couldn't get the torque wrench in there, but 13 foot-pounds, it's like just a little snuggy tighty, not too much. And then of course I put some high temperature what's it called, anti-seize compound on the threads, some of this stuff, high temperature copper formula, just in case I ever have to mess with this again, they won't be all seized up. So that's where I'm at. And then put the studs, and then here's the new gasket. You know, it'll goes right in there. There you go. Then of course the next thing will be the manifold, and then the new nuts, and then we're good. And then I can connect that little flange pipe tube to the back, put the heat shield on it, and then this downpipe. I got a new gasket for this also, where it connects, where the flange connects to the manifold. And then these 3 studs are new on here. So everything should line up pretty nice. And then I'll get this puppy running again. So we're making good progress. So I'll show you the next video where everything's put back together. Yeah, I need like 3 hands to be able to video everything, but I'll just show you once it's on there. But it's pretty straightforward. I still have the engine block, the engine lifted up with this wooden block in there. So I got the clearance that I need back in here to be able to slide this manifold from underneath, and then just kind of bring it up this way, and then it should mate up to all the studs. So we'll go from there. All right, talk to you later, YouTubers. Thanks for watching, and like my videos hopefully, and subscribe. Thank you.